What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're getting into my mock draft part 2. I just made my round 1 yesterday. This is the round 2 of it, day 2. I'm not going to be getting round 3. It's just round 2, but so if you haven't checked out round 1, go and check it out. But I'm just going to skim over the picks real fast for you guys to see it. See what happened. We made a few trades with like the Ravens, Bucks, Lions, Cardinals, Titans, Raiders. And by the way, this is flipped. Dwan Jones goes to the Bills and Mozzie Smith goes to the Cowboys. I actually switched those up, but yeah, so that is the round 1. Let's get into round 2. On the clock is the Pittsburgh Steelers with their first pick. They selected Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia. So, yeah, who do the Steelers want with this pick? And I think that the Steelers wanted Kalijah Kancey to continue to fall right in their laps, but they're not going to get him. And this team needs a cornerback. Let's go with the best quarterback prospect on the board right now. A little bit undersized. Cam Smith, though, is the best cornerback on the board, though, I think. And the Steelers will be happy with that pick. They need cornerback help. And getting Cam Smith would be a good pick, in my opinion, for them. Then we go to the Texans, who with their first 2 picks selected Will Anderson, believe it or not. I picked Will Anderson over C.J. Stroud for them, and they took an offensive tackle in Peter Skronsky. So I'm going to go with offense, continue to build up this team for the QB. I assume next season in this situation, they're going to draft their QB of the future, take Zay Flowers here, the wide receiver out of Boston College. Get a good target. Zay Flowers surprisingly falls to round 2 here. That's a great pick for the Houston Texans. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals up, and the Cardinals took Devin Witherspoon with their first pick. And I'm going to go defense again for them. Their edge unit is not good at all, and a really good edge player, underrated in my opinion, B.J. Ojolari, edge out of LSU. They need some edge help, especially with J.J. Watt retiring. So get a solid edge player out of LSU and B.J. Ojolari. Moving on to the Colts, they took C.J. Stroud with their 4th pick. So get him a weapon. Do you see Jordan Addison, the best player available on PFN's board? One of the best player availables. You could go with maybe Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer falls all the way to the 2nd, but Jordan Addison, I think, is the pick here. A little bit undersized, but he is a good deep threat option, and C.J. Stroud's going to need some weapons around him. The Colts team still has some work to do to get back to being a solid team. Then we have the Rams up with their first pick. They didn't have a first rounder, and I think that the Rams, there's a lot of needs that they have. They could go with like maybe a linebacker, a corner, receiver. I mean, there's just an inside offensive line. There's a lot of needs. But I think that the pick that makes the most sense for them, one of the better players available here, is Will McDonald, the 4th edge out of Iowa State. He fits their scheme. It's just I could just already see him in a Rams uniform. And that's just going to be – that's a pretty obvious pick there. The Rams need an edge, and they're going to get one there with Will McDonald. All right, so we got Seattle here at 37, and the Seahawks. I'm a Seahawks fan. We took inside defensive line, Jalen Carter with our first pick, and the edge, Nolan Smith, both out of Georgia. Really good pairing there, I would think. So yeah, I mean, we still need a cornerback, receiver. We need a lot of inside offensive line. We need some positions here. And honestly, I was looking at maybe a player like Julius Brents or Joe Tittman with this pick, but I think that you don't need to take that with 37. I would make a phone call with a team that might want to trade up. And honestly, I think that a team that's going to want to trade up is the Miami Dolphins. And I'll get to why they want to trade up after we get the details of this trade. I think that obviously it's going to be the pick swap right there. And then I think that Miami is going to have to give up a 2nd rounder next season and to swap for a 4th. I feel like that's a fair trade. But yeah, it was declined. So I'm just going to force this through. It doesn't let you force it through, but just like make something up. So we're just going to say, Seattle gets we're just going to say the first. I mean, there's no way that this is not a first. The real trade is 51st and a second for a 37th and a. Maybe they just accept the fifth one for a fifth. I mean, that seems like an easy deal. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so whichever one you want, 2024 fourth, 2024 fifth, maybe a conditional one of those. I don't even know, but yeah, that's how the trade. I think that Seattle wants to move down right there, and then we have the Dolphins at 37, and this is a team that I think is going to want to take Matthew Bergeron, and the reason why I'm trading up for Miami here is because the tackle after Matthew Bergeron, I think the tackles are just not really good at all, not ready to play. This is a Dolphins team that's desperate to win right now, so they can get a player that can help protect Tua. We all know the Tua situation. He needs to be protected. Matthew Bergeron, after him, like I said, it's a slide at tackle prospects, I think. The next best one, I think, is Blake Freeland. I'm a BYU fan. Blake Freeland is just not ready. He's not ready. He's a freak, but he's not ready to. He's not ready to be a pass defender. He's not good at that at all right now. He's very much developmental, and the Dolphins need Matthew Bergeron is easily is going to be a once we get off of Antoine Harrison there in round one. Matthew Bergeron is going to be a really hot player that a lot of teams are going to want, and I think Miami's going to trade up for him. Then we have the Raiders here. And the Las Vegas Raiders, with their first pick, took a cornerback in Christian Gonzalez, traded down as well. But they're going to take Adobere Adebawore, edge player of Northwestern, really a rising stock player. Back in the Senior Bowl and the Combine, really good player, really freak of nature. And the Raiders they got Jones, they got Crosby, but Jones is getting up there in age, and Adebawore could be a rotational guy for a bit, and then when he's ready to start, you can plug him in there. So that's a good pick, I think, for the Las Vegas Raiders. Then we're going to move on to the Carolina Panthers up next. And with the Panthers, Michael Myers still on the board. The Panthers took Bryce Young with the first pick. And this Panthers, tight ends, it's just been the worst in the league, literally the worst in the league over the past couple of years. They need tight ends, and Michael Mayer at 39. I mean, that is a steal for Carolina. You could think about maybe Darnell Washington, but I think that Michael Mayer is the better prospect. And Panthers really get a really good pick. So Panthers fans got to be thrilled with these first two picks for their team. And then moving on here to the Saints, and I'm going to go with we went with Miles Murphy with the first pick. I'm going to go with Keanu Benton for them. Keanu Benton, I'm a little bit lower on him than I've seen, but he's still a really solid prospect. Could work on his run defense. But, yeah, I mean, Keanu Benton, the Saints, they're getting up there in age in the inside defensive line. They need some help there. So go back-to-back defensive line with their picks and call it a day, or I guess a round two, their second pick, I guess. But anyway, moving on, the Raiders get this 41st pick again from the Titans who traded up. And the Raiders, I think, are going to take Steve Avali with this pick. A little bit of a reach here, but I mean, you get this pick because why not take? I mean, it's not the biggest deal to reach here after trading down. And Steve Avali, a guard out of TCU, I mean, he's a solid guard, not Osiris Torrance, but he definitely is the second best guard in this class. And the Raiders, they need inside offensive line help, especially at guard. Get Steve Avali in there. And then moving on here to the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers took Dalton Kincaid with their first pick. And with Darnell Washington on the board, they probably would be looking back at that like, oh, man, we should have just taken Jackson Smith-Njigba and got Darnell Washington here, but it's in the past. You got to move on. And I don't think that they take two tight ends in this class, but Josh Downs on the board. He's the best receiver there, and I think that you're going to take him. Really good receiver out of North Carolina. And the Packers need an offensive receiver, need to get all the weapons necessary for Jordan Love this season. See if he is your guy. Josh Downs, good prospect. Moving on to the New York Jets. And the Jets, a really far down player on this board. The Jets went with an offensive tackle in Darnell Wright with their first pick. And I'm going to go with Jatavius Martin. And don't let that cornerback fool you. That's a safety. Now, I could see the Jets potentially trading for Budda Baker, but I don't see a trade happening here, at least not in this draft. But Jatavius Martin, a safety out of Illinois. This safety class is not very good, I'm going to be honest. So you need to get one in there. Since the Jets need that position, they're trying to win right now. Jatavius Martin can help you do that. So I like that pick for New York. It's a little bit of a reach, I know, but like I said, the safety room is just so bad. I mean, not so bad, but yeah, so bad in this class, and the Jets need a safety. And then moving on here for the Falcons, and I struggle with the Falcons pick here. I was thinking about trading down with this pick, but I don't see anyone really wanting to trade up with Atlanta. There's a lot of options you can go with here. Honestly, actually not a lot. But I'm going to go Darnell Washington, and this is a controversial pick, but Darnell Washington is a really good prospect on the board right there. It's a really good pick right there. I could see him going in the first round. And the Falcons, we know they have Drake London, who's a really tight end-esque receiver. We know they have Kyle Pitts, but this scheme could use players like that. They use them a lot. One of the most in the NFL with this scheme. And Darnell Washington using that two tight ends, like I said, he's just too good to pass up. And with Kyle Pitts and Darnell Washington, as well as Drake London as a receiver, that is a scary receiving duo there. And the Falcons are going to, it's going to be a controversial pick for sure, but I think that Falcons fans thinking about it will accept it for number 44, especially there's not a lot you can go with here. You went with Tyree Wilson in the first. I don't think you take a linebacker or a corner here. I'm going to go with Darnell Washington. Moving on to the Packers. And the Packers just took Josh Downs as well as Dalton Kincaid in the first. And they need a safety. We're kind of hoping probably that Jatavius Martin didn't go off the board because he's the better player in my eyes. But Antonio Johnson, solid safety here. I'm not the biggest fan of Antonio Johnson as much as some other people are, but out of Texas A&M, he's not the worst safety prospect you'll get, and the Packers do need one. Like I said, it's a bad safety class. You got to get them where you can, and getting Antonio Johnson, I think, will be good enough for Green Bay at least. Moving on to the Patriots, and the Patriots, we all know that the Patriots receivers have been just such a need for this team. They went with a cornerback in the first round. You got to go with a receiver here at this point then. And I'm going to go with the receiver, Cedric Tillman. I'm going to go with him above Jalen Hyatt right there. It's close, but I do like Cedric Tillman more. And yeah, solid player out of Tennessee. And you look at the Patriots, I mean, their receiving unit has just been horrible the past few years. They need to get someone like that in the building. So I'm going to go Cedric Tillman. Moving on to 47, we have the Washington Commanders on the clock. Interesting team here. Really interesting team. The Commanders, you look at this roster, it's really solid, actually. They, especially after taking Joey Porter Jr. in the first, he's a really good cornerback. Fills out that cornerback need that they have. They got good edge players. They got good linebackers. I mean, they could use a linebacker, but it's not as important of a need. The offense, the receivers are really good. I mean, tight end they do need, but I'm going to go with Hendon Hooker with this pick. I know they have Sam Howell. I think they might believe in Sam Howell, but he's a fifth-round pick next season. I think you need to get some competition in the building there. If Sam Howell, maybe Sam Howell's a really good player. You get Hendon Hooker anyway to give him that competition. You could just trade him away. Hendon Hooker, he's old. He tore his ACL. He's not in my opinion, not the QB that's going to be a top, elite QB. Really at all, I don't see that happening. I think he's probably going to be like a top 15 at most, top 10 maybe, but bridge top 10 QB. But anyway, the Commanders, it's just they've needed a cornerback so desperately over the past few years. They need to, I mean, a QB, sorry. They need to get one in the building here to compete with Sam Howell. And Hendon Hooker's a really good, played a really solid year at Tennessee. Okay, moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals just went with the edge player as well as Devin Witherspoon in the first. And I'm honestly going to go with another cornerback for Arizona here. Double dip. That cornerback room is atrocious for Arizona. And Emmanuel Forbes, in the right scheme, Emmanuel Forbes is a really good cornerback prospect. And out of Mississippi State, he's a slender dude. He really needs to be in a team that the Vic Fangio defense like Arizona's. And if he's in that, I mean, he could be a really good cornerback. He's a really unique prospect. But yeah, I think that's a good pick for these Cardinals. I know you're double dipping, but I think it needs to be done for Arizona. That cornerback room just sucks. I'm going to be straight up honest with them. And by the way, this was from the Lions trade down that we did in the first. So moving on to the Steelers. And the Steelers need a linebacker here. They could go with, they went with an offensive line with their first pick, and then they went with a corner, Cam Smith with their next pick. So I'm going to continue to go. I'm going to get another defensive player with this pick. I'm going to go with Jack Campbell. I think that they need a linebacker. Jack Campbell just feels like a Steeler here. Really good run defender. And could work on his pass coverage, but he is a solid run defender and the best in this class, obviously. And I do think he's the best pro-ready linebacker out of any linebacker in this class. So Steelers get a solid linebacker there. It's not a very good linebacker unit, so you probably want to get that one early. And Jack Campbell going to fit right in Pittsburgh. Moving on to number 50 with the Buccaneers on the clock and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Let's see where they go with here. It's an interesting pick for Tampa Bay. We went with an edge, Lucas Van Ness with their first pick. They can go a lot of directions here, but I'm going to go Drew Sanders. I'm going to go back-to-back linebackers here. Drew Sanders out of Arkansas, has some work to do to get up there, pro-ready, but the Buccaneers need a linebacker. They can afford to develop him a bit. He's a solid pass coverage linebacker. He just needs to really work on his tackling. So, I like that pick for the Bucs. It's a tough team to draft because they have a lot of needs, but I think that Drew Sanders is going to be a solid pickup for that team. And then we got Seattle with back-to-back picks here after trading down with Miami. We went with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith with their first picks. So let's see here. All right, so with this 51st pick, I'm going to go with Julius Brents, cornerback out of Kansas State. I think that cornerback is an underrated need. I'm a Seahawks fan. Cornerback's an underrated need, I think, for us. I'm not the biggest believer in Michael Jackson, and Julius Brents just a freak, man. He's literally Tariq Woolen, very similar prospects to Tariq. And just imagine if he develops two Tariqs on both sides. That is really good. And who else to trust besides Pete Carroll to develop those guys? I know Seahawks don't usually pick cornerbacks this early, but my, it's just too good of a fit, I think, for the Seahawks. And it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go with him out of Kansas State. And then we go to number 52. And a player that the Seahawks need, I think, is off a position the Seattle Seahawks need is center. They signed someone in free agency. I honestly forgot who it was, but some random dude. I don't think he's the guy, especially if I don't even really have heard anything good about him. But Joe Tippmann, offensive center out of Wisconsin. He's a solid center. I think he's better than the guy from Wisconsin. Or who am I thinking of right now? Yeah, the Ohio State guy, Luke Weipoller or whatever. I think that he's better than him. And Seattle, they need a center here, like I said. So 2 back-to-back picks, go corner, and then go with an offensive center. Moving on to the Bears here. And the Bears, they went with – who did they go with again? Oh, yeah, Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle. Don't know why I keep forgetting that one. But I think that the Bears are going to go offense again with this pick. I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. The net, obviously, in a normal class, Jahmyr Gibbs would be the best running back in this class, in a class, but there's Bijan Robinson, so like he's not that, unfortunately, but he's not the best, but he's a really good running back prospect out of Alabama, and the Bears, they can use him, Justin Fields and Gibbs. That would be a scary run threat right there. They need a running back. They got let go of Montgomery. They need more bodies in that room, and Jahmyr Gibbs on the board. That's just a really good pick. I picked him in my first round in the last mock draft. I believe in Jahmyr Gibbs. He's a really good player, guys. Don't sleep on him. Okay, moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers at 54. And the Chargers are a tough team, man. I don't even know what to do with them. But, they took a receiver. They could use maybe a linebacker here, Deion Henley. But I'm honestly going to trade down with the LA Chargers. I'm going to trade down with them. I'm going to go with, let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Trading up here. The Cardinals. There's a lot of good edge players on the board, and I think Arizona's going to want to trade up to get one of them. I'll explain all that in a minute, but I think the trade would be that 66th pick and the 105th pick for the 54th pick. That's a pretty good trade, I would say. Yep. So the Cardinals trade up 12 picks to go and get Felix Anudike-Uzomah, edge player out of Kansas State. The Chargers don't really need an edge. They can afford to trade down into the third round, and then I don't have to deal with them with my tough pick for them. But, Felix Anudike-Uzomah out of Kansas State. I know the Cardinals picked B.J. Ojulari, and they double-dipped on cornerbacks. I think they're doubly-dipping on cornerback and edge prospects. But I think that it's necessary. This Cardinals team is just, this Cardinals edge unit is just not good at all. It's atrocious, especially with Watt gone. They need to get that. They need to hit on one of these guys, at least one of them. And Felix Anudike-Uzomah is a solid edge prospect, so go get him. And just live with all the criticism that might come with that. But I think I've done a really good job with the Cardinals. I think if I was a Cardinals fan, I would be happy with this draft. Moving on to the Lions here. And the Lions at 55. I'm gonna go with the tight end here. I'm gonna go with Luke Musgrave. It's a really good tight end class, so you maybe could wait till the later rounds. But I think that the releasing Hawkinson, this is a good Lions team. Get a tight end there and prove a need position that's a need there. And Luke Musgrave, really good player to Oregon State, could be a very good prospect in the future. Has some ways to go, but I think he can get there. All right, moving on to the Jaguars, 56. And this is a player that's really down on this PFN board. It's going to be Michael Wilson out of Stanford University. Michael Wilson, I think, is a diet Devontae Adams. That's my comp for him. He's underrated in this class. He's a really freaking good route runner, a big body, which in this class is a lot of smaller bodies. So I think the Jaguars need that bigger body receiver here, and they can upgrade at receiver, get Justin or Trevor Lawrence, another weapon, and that I think that's a good pick. Moving on to the Giants. The Giants, I think we went with John Michael Schmitz with the first pick for them. I'm going to go with, where is he? I swear he was up there. Let me just search him up. Deion Henley. He's really down on this board. He's the next best linebacker. I like him more than the Clemson guy, Trenton Simpson. I'm not a Trenton Simpson believer at all. But Deion Henley, the Giants need a linebacker. Deion Henley is the next best. I think there's a tier drop after that, so go get him while you still can. And, I think that's a good pick for New York. And then we have the Cowboys up. They took Mozzie Smith, not Antoine Harrison or whoever we picked. Whatever. Okay, moving on. The Cowboys, look at this player that's on the board, Kelee Ringo. Probably will go higher than this, but I'm not a believer in Keely Ringo here. Out of Georgia. The Cowboys, they need a cornerback. Diggs is overrated. Their cornerback room isn't that good. So, and with Ringo on the board, he's arguably the best player available at this point, and I think you go and get him. Moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Jalen Hyatt slips down here, and the Bills took an offensive tackle with the first pick. Go and get Josh Allen, another receiver. Try and make your Super Bowl push. It's as simple as that for Buffalo. Jalen Hyatt, really good prospect. Moving on to Cincinnati up next. And Cincinnati, we went with an offensive guard with their first pick, O'Cyrus Torrance. So Cincy, I mean, their roster is really good. It's a solid team. Other than that offensive line, I mean, there's not a lot of needs on this roster. So why not? I mean, the quarterback room's getting a little bit older. Why not get Clark Phillips into the building there? Get a little bit of depth. He can play a bit. And like I said, it's getting a little bit older. You got to prepare for the future. If you're a team like that with that many good, not really a lot of needs, like at all. So I like the pick there. Cornerback is where we go. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. And I'm going to go with Derek Hall. I mean, you look at Isaiah Foskey on the board. I am not an Isaiah Foskey believer. I mean, for him to be ranked 23rd on this is just absolutely absurd for me. Derek Hall, edge out of Auburn. I'm going to go with him. And he played a really good season at Auburn. The Bears, we've gone offense for the first few picks. They need an edge here. This defense was very bad last season. I know they signed a few players in free agency, but it still needs some work. And Derek Hall going to be the pick for the Chicago Bears. All right, last two picks here. We have the Philadelphia Eagles up. And the Eagles have not gone with a cornerback yet. And I think that they're going to need to go with one eventually here. DJ Turner out of Michigan. The best cornerback player on the board. I'm a DJ Turner believer here. I think he deserves a second-round pick. And, yeah, I mean, you look at Philadelphia, let go of some of their corners. And in the second round, to get value with the DJ Turner is a good second-round cornerback. I like it a lot for the Eagles. And then the final pick here for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're going to go with Jaden Reed. I'm a really big Jaden Reed believer. I know he's really far down on this board. Where is he? There he is, all the way down at 107. But he is my pick here. I think he could be the next Tyler Lockett out of Michigan State. Tyler Lockett was a third-round pick. So Chiefs, the receiver room isn't that bad, but they could use another player there. So that's where I'm going to go with. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. Again, if you haven't checked out my first video, go and do so. And anyway, peace.